Kathleen. Thank you so much for coming on to this YouTube show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Podcast, wherever you're listening. I know that you're going to get a ton of value from today's episode. We were just talking offline, getting to know each other a little bit better. We have a really similar philosophy about habit change and what it really means to live a healthy lifestyle and have compassion and grace and patience. And that's probably as much as I'm going to talk in this interview. So
I am a talker. You can trust that I will talk. And mostly I love this topic, right? Like fitness and health changed my life. And so if I can get the message across to anyone, even one person listening to this, if they come away, they're like, it's possible for me to change my life. It's possible for me to get active. That will make me unbelievably happy. Like I grew up the first half of my life, I hated being in my own skin. I hated being Kathleen. I was overweight. I ate my way through my parents' divorce. My mother couldn't make me walk down the block, let alone like go for a run. And now I've done Ironmans. I've done like 10 marathons. And I walk into a room differently. I feel better in my own skin. I wake up in the morning and I respect myself and I like being me. I don't know. I look back at my childhood and I look back at the things that I used to, I would lie to get out of gym class, or I would say to my mom that I was going to walk home from school because I knew she'd be happy that I was walking, and I'd time it so I could stop at the fish and chip store, get fish and chips, have time to brush my teeth, and then get home to my mom. And so she wouldn't know, right? Now, I'm sure she did in some part of her know. But it was just like this thing. It was constantly a game to me of like how much food I could sneak, how much exercise I could get away with not doing. And the fact that I have gradually morphed into who I am today, and gradually being a really important concept, like nothing happens overnight. But I had to find my fit. I had to find what worked for me. And that's what I want people listening is so often with health and wellness, you listen to a podcast and, they're like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And like, that's great if it works for them, but you got to thrive in your own lane. Like you have to figure out what works for you. You have to figure out like, what do you find fun? What do you find convenient? What do you find clears your mind and makes you feel like the best version of you, and do those things. Forget about, what works for Kathleen or what works for your favorite celebrity or the book that you just read. Like all that stuff is good data. It's good stuff to learn and sort of sift through what you know about yourself. But ultimately it comes back to you and like what will work for you.
Mm-hmm. Now you kind of did touch on your journey. I didn't know you did Ironman, so that's pretty legit. I've only done half marathons. I absolutely love distance running, but
yeah, it's so nice to just go and get out of your head and be free of life and the world and have time to yourself. And, it's funny, it's such a mindset switch. When I was inactive, exercise was an obligation. And now that it's part of my life, it's something I do for me. It's so funny how the same thing can mean two totally different things depending on what mindset you're in. But so I started exercising because my mom basically said to me, she's like, Kathleen, you have to do something. Like maybe you don't go and play softball with your peers, but what can we make you do? And it was actually she's the sort of the seed for my fitness philosophy. So my first book is called Finding Your Fit. And basically the philosophy behind that book is some type of daily motion has to be a non-negotiable, but how you do it is up to you. And you have to meet yourself where you are, and you have to take really baby steps. So what my mom said to me was, the demographic at the YMCA is sort of over 40, under 5. So you can go and see like basically nobody your own age and just go and walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. And so that's what I did. I was very insecure around my peers, and my mom kind of knew that, and she's amazing. And so, so I went to the Y, and I started walking for 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes turned into 20 minutes. And then I started weight training, and then I started taking aerobics classes, and then I started teaching aerobics classes. I always thought I was going to be a lawyer, but then one day I kind of woke up and I was like, wait a second, like I love this. So then I, undergrad kinesiology, and then I did a master's in exercise science, and it just was all these like slow baby steps. But, I tell my clients, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to get great. And I think that that's a really important message. Like I didn't start by going for a 10K run. I didn't start by doing an Ironman. I started with 10 minutes. Like anybody can walk for 10 minutes. Like it's so doable. And I think that we often think like, oh, that's so doable, it must not be worthwhile. But it is, because it gets your foot in the door. It gets you going. And
stop, because that was really, really good. And
okay.
So sure everybody heard what you just said.
I don't even know, what did I say? I said so many things. I just talk.
No, that was so good. What did you just say about?
Well, I said that you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to get great. And that just because something is simple and easy doesn't mean it's not really important. And,
Just
you know, I
something
think,
simple that you said is
yes,
something simple. You think that it's not significant.
yes, yeah.
That'll be the quote on Instagram.
Okay, I love it. Oh, I like that. Thank you. Well, you know, it's just I think that Stephen Covey has that phrase like
Yeah.
common sense is not common practice. And that's the thing with health is we all know what to do, right? It's like you drink more water, you get more sleep. But for some reason, because it's not sexy, like getting more sleep is not like, oh my God, it's the miracle thing. It's just like, oh yeah, I know I need to get enough sleep, but you don't actually do it. So you have to consistently do the common practice things. You have to make common sense common practice, basically. Like every day, you got to drink your water, you got to eat your greens, you got to sleep. Consistency beats perfection because perfection is not possible, right? So if you aim for perfect, you'll just do nothing. But if you aim for consistent, you know, you walk 10 minutes a day, that's 70 minutes a week, which is way more than 0 minutes, which is what a lot of people are doing, right? And then that 10 minutes can always turn into 20. It can turn into 30. Like you can always do more. I think that people think that if they make the goal of doing something that's doable, like 10 minutes, they're like, well, you know, if I make a goal of 10 minutes, that can't be possibly good enough. And I won't do anything else. It's like, you can always do more, but you have to start. And then once you start, you can tweak, right? But if you never start, you have nothing to tweak. You got to standardize that you're doing something so you can optimize what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think it's just so funny that the girl who hated exercise and literally tried to avoid it now owns a business. So
I know, right? Yeah. And it just sort of shows that change is possible. Like, I think that's the other thing is, you know, people buy all these magazines of like, you know, become your fit future self and, you know, lose 10 pounds. And in some ways they think that change is possible because they buy the magazines. But I think in some ways we all think that, I don't know, in our heart of hearts, there's like this fear that no matter what I do, I'll never actually change. And that fear keeps us really stuck. It's like, why even try? Because even if I try, it's not going to make a difference, or it'll make a difference for a week, but I won't stick with it. But the thing is that change, it's hard and it's gradual, but you can evolve. You can trend towards a different fit future you. But you have to take the actions now. Like what we do now is what creates the you that you will become.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen. But I do want you to tell people for a little bit more context, what do you do for a living? Like, so you're a fit person, and how do you help other people with their fit?
Well, what do I do for a living? So I work currently now because of the pandemic on Zoom, but I work one-on-one with clients, sometimes one-on-two. Like, so I have some husband and wife clients that work together or mother-daughter teams. It's actually really fun in the pandemic because I have some people who have like, they will be in Toronto and then they will like Zoom in with their mother in Montreal. I have one woman tomorrow that it's her in Toronto and her brother and her mother, who's like 97 in Montreal, which is like a 6-hour drive away. And then me here as well in Toronto. Like, so 3 different Zooms all in one class. And you know, how cool is that? Right. And it's, yeah, that's super. I love that. Or I have another one where, the mother is here and the daughter's in Chicago. So that is fun about Zoom. It's like I'm getting to know people's families but yeah, so primarily I work with people over Zoom. I do personal training, nutrition, coaching, but I don't know. People always say to me, like, you can't call yourself a personal trainer because that's not really what you do. I don't exactly know how. I say it's just like I'm the Kathleen method. Like I have all these tools, and depending on what you need, it's the tool that I use. So I work with everybody from people who just, you know, want to lose some weight to people who are athletes. I have like competitive swimmers who are 15, but then I also have a lot of people who are like in their 80s and trying to stay, you know, healthy and fit. I have a lot of people with back issues and hip issues and knee issues. So MS, Parkinson's. So I work with everybody on a continuum, and all that matters is that they, you know, want to put a little bit of effort into their health and become the sort of best version of themselves that they can be.
Yeah. And you said that you did have an online group coaching. So
yes. So yeah. So my one-on-one stuff is currently full. So what I started a couple of years ago is this group coaching, but people often hear the group coaching and they think it's like, oh, a fitness class, but it's not physical. It's all about goal setting. It's called Kick Your Ass with Compassion. And basically what it is it's trying to learn the science behind goal setting. You're smiling because you're like the Kick Your Ass with Compassion. I love that name.
and I love when people, I secretly love when people throw a little cuss word in there every now and then. So you might be the first on this podcast.
Okay, sorry.
Uh,
But yeah, so basically it's a course, it's 5 weeks, and each week I give a little lecture, and then in between the lectures, you get one-on-one unlimited emails with me, and you state at the beginning of week 1 what your goal is, and your goal can change, or you can add on, like, so week 1 your goal could just be to like drink a certain amount of water, and then week 2 could be water and move for 10 minutes a day. The goal itself doesn't really matter so much, because the process behind reaching any goal is the same. That science behind goal setting, that mindset of what goal setting is. We were talking before we started recording about the importance of systems. So I really believe that you set a goal, and then you use the goal to teach you how to work appropriately in every moment to get yourself to that goal. And that is where systems come in, because then you consciously create the systems that are going to help you reach that goal. But most people set wishes. They don't set goals. They'll be like, oh, well, tomorrow I'm going to work out, or I'm going to lose weight, but they don't take the time to figure out, what does that mean? Does my husband have to take care of the kids so I have some time to myself? Do I need to get a fitness buddy? Do I need to join the Noom app? Do I have to do food prep on Sundays and Wednesdays? Do I have to have food delivery? Like, there's all these things that have to go into the preparation, so that you can actually achieve your goals. And that's what the group coaching is about. It's teaching you how to step back and prepare, analyze yourself, analyze where you are, analyze what goal is realistic, and then go from there. So it's really fun. I love it. And it's great because I get to know tons of different people, So in a group class, there'll be people from Vancouver, there'll be people from Seattle, from Los Angeles, from Florida, like from all over. And it's like a fun group, and, we chat and we laugh, and then we set goals and we achieve goals.
Well, I really like how you said, you consciously decide your systems, and that will change your subconscious habits, right?
Yes.
If we just live our life
Yes.
Habitually, and a lot of emotional eating is really just conditional, habitual habits. And so,
absolutely. Well, a lot of everything is just habits, right? Like, even how you talk to yourself, how you talk to your significant other, how you walk, like your comportment, how you sit at a desk. Like, so I think the thing about habits is, once you've established them, they're fantastic, because then you don't have to use as much of your cognitive processes to do the habit, right? It just sort of happens. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't really think about it. You just do it. Driving, you don't really think. It's just much more automatic. But in order for something to become automatic, you first have to intentionally create that system, create the intent to brush your teeth, right? And you do it enough days and days and days that it's just a non-negotiable. It's not like, well, should I or should I? You just do it. And that's so much of health is that. And I think, especially with the pandemic, one of the things I really try to get my clients to appreciate is that all of their habits changed when the pandemic hit, right? Like working from home, childcare changing, all this stuff. So I say to people, your habits are going to change regardless. You have to make sure you're creating your new habits by design versus default. Like, life will just take over. If you don't consciously design the habits that are going to serve you, the systems that are going to make the habits happen, the environments that nudge you towards healthier habits, making food convenient. So, vegetables cut up in the fridge, having a fitness buddy, like all these systems, but you got to consciously design that life you want, because otherwise you just get swept up, and then you're just constantly reacting. And then you get to the end of the day and you're like, wait a second, did I drink water? Did I move my body? Did I journal? Did I talk to my spouse? Did I say something nice to him or her? So there's so much of it that has to be like, okay, who do I want to be, and how do I make myself become that person? And it's like, slowly, little by little, choice by choice. James Clear has this phrase of that you vote for the person that you want to become with every action, right? So every time you say to your significant other, I really feel grateful that I have you, like, that's voting for the type of relationship you want to have, right? Every time you show up with a conversation with excitement and joy, that's voting for the type of person I'm going to be, and also for the type of person somebody's going to see me as. So each day is kind of exciting, because it's a new day to vote for the person you want to be. Like, if you didn't like who you were yesterday, okay, so learn from that. Like, experiences are just data, as opposed to being like angry at yourself. Then you're like, okay, so interesting. What did I learn? How can I reproduce the habits and the actions and the thoughts that serve me? And then how can I tweak the things that didn't serve me? right? As opposed to belittling yourself and mentally, emotionally flogging yourself. Just sort of be like, okay, growth mindset. Like, if people listening to this love books, Carol Dweck's Mindset, amazing, all about this idea of growth mindset and how you learn, and moving away from perfection and moving towards like healthy striving. And it's just, that was a game changer for me, of just this idea of like, yeah, I'm never going to be perfect. Perfect doesn't exist, but I can learn every single day and I can be proud of the process.
One thing I love that you just said was experience is just data.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people are afraid to commit to exercise or commit to fitness or nutrition or whatever because they're afraid to fail themselves.
Oh my God, yes, you're so smart. I totally agree.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, what I would say is you're going to fail, and that's great, because failure is really, really rich data if you allow it to be, right? And the thing about failure is you gotta be okay sitting in some discomfort. Think about how kids learn to walk. It's not like a baby. I mean, I'm not a mother, but I've enough of my clients have brought their kids with them into training in that maternity leave. And I see these kids go from, being able to roll over, being able to crawl, being able to stand up. And no baby is born with this idea of like, oh, well, tomorrow when I'm day 2, I should be able to walk. Or better example, because I've gone through this, is let's say grade school. You don't enter grade 1 and think, why am I failing at grade 12 math? It's like, well, of course you're failing at grade 12 math. You haven't gone through grade 1 through 11. You have to freaking like learn and go. So why is it with fitness, people are like, I went for a run and I sucked at it. Like I failed, I'm going to quit. It's like, well, but like, of course you freaking suck at it. You've never run before. Like you're supposed to be crappy at a lot of things you've never done. First time you went for a drive, like I remember going to driver's ed, I was like so afraid I was going to kill myself. But like, that's actually a good thing, because if I wasn't afraid I was going to kill myself, I probably would have killed myself. Like, so a little bit of trepidation when you first start things, like that's just how you learn stuff. And I don't know if it's just that as we get older, we get more and more afraid of trying new things, or if it's just this idea of failure or feeling this need to be perfect. But so try stuff. And worst that happens is you try a piece of fitness and you don't like it, and then you don't do it again. Like it's just data. And some things are going to work and some things are not. And some things you'll grow into. Like I always thought I hated yoga. And currently I really love yoga. It's like in the pandemic, for some reason, it's just what I need to do. But if you'd spoken to me 5 years ago, I would have said, yoga's not my jam. I just don't like it. So some things there will be an evolution into. As you get better at it, you'll like it more. But then some things you'll just never like. Like I'm going to use my mom as an example. She came once to a spin class. I was teaching the class. My mom is amazing. She is like literally the best mom. And she's like green by the time we're done the spin class. And she came off the bike and she looked at me. She goes, Kathleen, I love you more than anything. And I'm so proud of anything you do. And I'm behind anything you do. But if you ever try to make me do a spin class again, I will disown you. And I always tell that story because like, if I had said to her, Mom, the only way you can be fit is if you do 45 spin classes, she would have just decided never to be fit. She did not like it. Now she might be able to get a little bit better at it and find maybe in time she might be able to do 1 class a week and tolerate it. But spinning is never going to be the thing that she is going to want, like wake up in the morning and be like, I just want to spin, right? So part of fitness is trying enough things to know what are the things you are going to be like that are going to draw you to it. Like, running. I love running. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, oh, I'm just so excited to go for a run outdoors and in our ravines. So that's the thing that I love. Now, I don't love doing my physio exercises, my Pilates and my strength training, but I do that stuff because I know it will allow me to run. And then there's some stuff that I just really don't love to do. And I will only do if it's like a date. Like my mom loves Zumba, for example. So if I want to be with my mom, I might do a Zumba class. But the primary purpose of doing Zumba is not for me to exercise. It's for me to be with my mom. So that's okay. So sometimes you do things you don't particularly like to be with a person and whatever. But primarily, I found the stuff I love, which is running. I found the stuff I need to do to be able to run injury-free, strength, cardio, like core, that stuff. And then I do those. I thrive in my lane. And yeah, so it kind of goes back to what we started with at the beginning of the podcast of like figuring out, like meet yourself where you are, and hold yourself accountable, but hold yourself, I don't know. Somebody said the other day, I was podcast I was listening to, and they said, put on a garment very lightly, right? So it's like, you try Zumba, but it's lightly. You try running, but it's lightly. Like you're not you're holding yourself within this kind of light garment that you're seeing, does it fit, does it not, like, is this for me, is it not, and you're not married to the garment, it's not, but you can take it off, you can put it on, you're just like, okay, I'm trying it. But you are trying, right? Like, you're in the game. You're not saying, you know what, nothing's ever going to be good enough, I'm never going to be perfect, I'm going to suck forever, I'm just going to stay in bed, right? Like, it's not one of those two polar extremes. It's not, I'm going to do nothing or I'm going to do everything and I'm going to be A+ at everything. You can't be A+ at everything. It's that in between, I'm going to try it on loosely, put on the garment, take it off, be a little curious. What do you like to do? Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe I might like that. Like, just, I don't know, let's be a little fun with it.
I like what you said. I think it was really interesting how when I asked you to speak about fear, and immediately you said fear is good. Fear is rich data. And I think what needs to happen is we need to change our mindset around and stop being afraid of failure and start trying to fail. Like, I think if we're not working at something that's challenging enough that we fail, quote unquote. I don't really consider anything a failure. I think everything's a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you're always trying to stay in your comfort zone, that's not going to serve you in the long run.
Well, so I think there's sort of two interesting things of what you just said. I think the thing is anything can be used as a method of self-sabotage. So if you're looking for a reason to have like a bunch of cookies, then you can say, well, Kathleen told me I shouldn't be afraid to we shouldn't be fearful of failure. I can have these cookies, whatever, who cares? So I think there is a thing where you have to say, you have to always be able to step back and have a little bit of observer energy about the experience and sort of say, like, am I trying something really new? And then therefore I shouldn't be afraid to fail, because if I fail, I learn. Or am I using this, all failure is good as a way to just give myself kind of what I want in the moment, but something that's actually not going to serve me, right? Because there's always that thing of like, what you want in the moment is not necessarily what is actually going to get you to your end goal. And you never want to give up what you truly want for what you want in that moment, right? Like, if you're trying to quit smoking in a moment, you're going to want that cigarette, but that's not what you actually fully want for your life. So that's one thing I would say is, I do think you're right. I think failure is very rich data, but I also think we always have to be aware enough of how we're using everything, because it's easy to be like, oh, well, they said that on that podcast, that there's no failure, I'm just going to dive right into the deep end of like, chocolate cake and bonbon. So there's that. The second thing I think the thing about failure being rich data is that any emotion is rich data. Data is information. It's not a directive, right? Like, you can be sad and not have the cookie. You can be mad and not punch somebody in the face. So I think everything is useful if you have the ability to step back and say, okay, now is this serving me? Like fear, like if a car is coming towards you, be freaking fearful, run away from that car. If a mountain goat is coming at me, or a lion or something, like, fear is useful. What's not useful is if, when the car is gone and you're safe on the sidewalk, you continue to be fearful, right? So you have to, part of all of this stuff is learning to sort of feel your emotions. And when it is appropriate to really feel them and use them, and then to be able to sort of let them dissipate and move on. So I think, fear, maybe it's the best way of putting it is, fear can be really useful, and fear is always rich data, because you can say to yourself, okay, should I let this go now? Right? Like, is it serving me? And that all emotions are data.
Yes, all emotions are data, but you also said something I'd never heard before. Something about we should all have a little bit of an observation.
Oh yeah. Observer energy. So the thing about health is, the problem with health is, in the moment, most of the things that we want are not our healthy stuff, until we've trained ourselves to crave Brussels sprouts, or, I'm joking only because my partner James always jokes that I'm like a Brussels sprouts addict, but you can train yourself to have healthier taste buds and train yourself to have healthier habits, but it does take time. But for the most part, especially at the beginning of the journey, those things are not in the moment what you want. So you have to be able to sort of take a pause. Sometimes it's talked about as taking a pause, stepping back. If you step up into the balcony and look at the dance floor, that's also that image that's often used. It's just this idea of stepping back and being like, okay, I'm feeling this happened. I really, really, really want that massive chocolate cake. Oh, so interesting. Oh, I also am really sad because my boss was critical of me today. Oh, interesting. Maybe I'm just feeling really shame. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm feeling shame. Maybe instead of having the chocolate cake, I should phone a friend and go for a walk, right? So you're still honoring that you felt the shame, you're feeling sad, you're feeling frustrated about that experience, but then you're thinking, okay, your brain is going, okay, it's like, okay, well, my future self is actually not going to feel happier if I have the cake. In fact, I'm just going to be more shamed if I have the cake because then I'm going to be angry at the cake, right? So it's yeah, using the emotion as the data and then sort of saying like, okay, what are better ways that I can serve that data?
And you didn't like, I thought it was really interesting. I like that dance floor analogy because you were on the balcony and I kind of thought that you were just going to say, okay, I want this cake, but is it in congruency with my long term goals of health, weight loss, whatever? No, you didn't really stop there. You talked about, oh, isn't it interesting that my boss was mad at me?
Yeah, kind of
I
putting it
didn't
all little pieces. Yeah.
Hmm. I didn't have a good lunch with a lot of protein. Hmm. I really don't want to get to the bills tonight. Maybe I'm procrastinating. And so I think that observer energy is a great thing that I think a lot of people listening to this can benefit from
Thank
to
you.
help make better decisions in the moment. Just give yourself a pause. So, do you have any specific questions that you tell your clients or thoughts, like a process to take them through to identify, what to look at on the dance floor, like we just kind of did?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say you're an awesome listener. So your kids are very lucky and your friends are very lucky and your podcast guests are very lucky. And yeah, so yes.
That's
Thank you for being such an amazing listener. Sometimes I get so excited in my own thoughts that I need somebody to be like, have some observer energy and step back and be like, this is what you said. What do I ask my clients? I think the thing is that the questions that you ask yourself have to a little bit be individualized to you. So I might start with my clients with some overarching goals of what are you feeling in your body right now? What in the past has like made you feel like the proudest version of you? What in the past, what experiences or choices in the past have you made that have been frustrating or that you felt shame around? Meaning like, so often when we have that experience of like, okay, my boss has made me really mad, I want the chocolate cake. That's not the first time in your life you've had that I'm sad, I want food feeling, or I'm angry, I want food, or I'm angry, I want to skip my workout and, just play video games or whatever it is. Like maybe it is the first time, but I'm going to say 99% of the time, it's a habit that you've gotten into from childhood or for whatever. So often if you can step back and be like, okay, if I go back a year ago when this exact same thing happened or an iteration of this happened, what choice did I make? And was I proud or not? Sometimes that can be helpful. I like to ask myself, like, what will my future self be proud of? My second book is called Your Fittest Future Self. And that's because it's something that I find very, very helpful. I will ask myself, when you go to bed tonight, what's the choice that you're going to be proud of? Because you're always at this like fork in the road. And, you can sort of know, we're smart. And when you really step back, you can sort of say like, okay, if I do this, that's how I'm going to feel. If I do this. So for me, my best two is what will my future self feel if I do this? And, or when I go to bed, what am I going to be proud of? But I just think that everybody's a little bit different in the choices that they can ask, but just also recognizing how it feels in your body. Like often if I feel really shame, I feel like if I'm feeling like I want to eat because I'm shameful, I feel sort of like anxious in my stomach. And that's something that reminds me of my childhood for sure. But if I'm eating because I'm sort of overtired, I feel like almost like a heaviness in my body. So that's an indication that I just need to go to bed. Like more of the shame feeling is more that I kind of need to talk to a friend and like work this out or journal. Whereas like when I feel heavy, then that's more like, oh, you just need some sleep. Like often, often a lot of these problems will just be like helped by like just going to sleep, right? Or just giving yourself, like as you said, maybe you didn't have enough protein. Like the other thing I would say to people is ask yourself, if this was my child or an elderly parent I was taking care of, what would I do for them in this moment, right? Because I think a lot of what I talk about with my clients is almost like learning how to reparent ourselves, because we're so much better to other people, right? Like if your child came home and got a bad mark on a math test. Like you wouldn't say like, oh my God, you're a freaking failure. You're never going to pass math, go to your room and never come out again. Right. But that's what we do to ourselves. To a kid, we'd say, interesting. Are you getting bullied at school? Do you need a tutor? Are you not getting enough sleep? Are you not getting enough quality nutrition? Right. But to ourselves, we're just like flog. You're terrible. You're going to be the worst person ever. You're never going to get healthy. So that can be a really interesting question of like, if this was my child, because it could be that you haven't, like, maybe you're feeling like you need that chocolate cake because you haven't eaten in 7 hours and you skipped lunch and you didn't have enough protein, right? Or it could be that you want that sugar because you've had like 4 coffees and you're jittery and that has made you want sugar. And really what you need is just like a nutritious meal. So sometimes you just pretend you're a 4-year-old, and what would you give to a 4-year-old? What would you tell to your kid? I don't know.
You said the word interesting because my son Dawson yesterday, he loves Winnie the Pooh. He was Christopher Robin for Halloween.
Aww.
And yesterday he was just like, Mommy, read Pooh. It's interesting. And I'm like, what?
Where did you get that from?
Where did you learn that thing?
That's so cute. But wouldn't it be lovely if we had that reaction to ourselves, right? Like if every time I learned a new word, I was like, oh, Kathleen, good for you. You learned a new word. And not in a patronizing way and not in a like, well, because you learned a new word, now you don't have to go out and do more things. Like, I think that this is where people get really caught up on compassion. They think that if you're nice to yourself, then you're going to be like, oh, well, I'm nice to myself. I don't ever need to do anything again. I'm done. Like, I'm good. And I think all the data shows, that's just not the case. Like when we shame ourselves, shame doesn't make us want to be better or do more. Shame makes us want to do less and be less. And there's a very big distinction between shame and guilt. So I love the work of Brené Brown. And so anyone listening, like her work is fantastic. And she really differentiates this, that guilt is the problem with the action, right? It's like, oh, I missed a workout. Okay, so that's not good. How do I fix that action and make sure I work out, tomorrow? How do I make sure I don't miss a workout again? Whereas shame is, oh, I missed the workout. I must be a bad person. And there's a really big distinction between thinking of yourself as a bad person and an unworthy person, and thinking of the action that you did as something you need to change, right? And so that's a big thing. When you're doing that observer energy, step back and be like, don't observe yourself as a person. This is not like, this is not you deciding that if you're worthy or unworthy. This is just you deciding if you missed a workout, how to make sure you get to do the workout the next day. It goes back to parenting yourself. Like you wouldn't say to your kid, you are an unworthy child because you did badly on your math test. You would say, I love you and let's figure out the solution.
Wouldn't that be funny if that was our reaction to ourselves when we messed up? I love you. I mean,
yeah, I love you and let's just do better next time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time that I told myself, I love you. I love you, Morgan.
I know, right? And it's so hard. It's so hard. And I don't know why it's so hard, because I find it really hard too. And my clients often laugh at me because I'm so good at pointing out like bright spots in them. And then I'll do something and I'll like flog myself, and they'll be like, Kathleen, don't talk to yourself like that. So I'm not arguing that this is easy. And I find it very hard to be kind and compassionate, but I'm working at it, and it's a practice, right? And it's not a pass fail. It's not like you're either doing this and you're, A+ or you're failing. This is a process. And it's, you're slowly building better habits and you're softening the habits that don't serve you. And that goes with self-talk as well. So you're slowly getting self-talk that serves you better, where you can pat yourself on the back and say, I love you. You're slowly parenting yourself in a better way. You're slowly being a better roommate for yourself, right? Like I always laugh at people, the way we talk to ourselves. If your roommate talked to you like that, if your husband or your wife or talk to you in the way that we talk to ourselves, we would say like, get out of here. I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. Like James is my partner. I call him my lobster because lobsters mate for life. And listen, if my lobster talked to me the way that I talk to myself, he would no longer be my lobster. But he doesn't. He's so kind to me. But I sometimes find it so hard to be kind to myself. So I don't know.
What I think is really interesting and really hard for me is, okay, we've really talked a lot about reflection. And I wanted to point that out to people, that if you're not giving yourself the space, the margin in your day to even think about how you're feeling,
yes,
you're not see the success that you want.
Yeah. You're such a good listener. The fact that you're right. No, but everything we can sort of synthesize down what we've talked about is giving yourself the space to reflect. Because if you're going to meet yourself where you are and do the things that serve you, you have to first know where you are and you have to know what's going to serve yourself. And so much of us, we're so on this hamster wheel of life. We don't even take a second to just take a breath and be like, okay, whew, I'm a body, I'm a person. Yeah.
I think a lot of times, like when people are emotionally eating or skipping workouts, they're literally, it's not even on their radar to think about why.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? It's not on their radar to walk up the steps of the balcony and observe their own a little bit. And so I thought that was important to point out, that if you're not already doing some sort of reflective practice,
journaling of some sort. Yeah.
And that is so helpful for me. I'm really, and it's funny on, I think it was off, I have office hours every week for my members. And I was talking to them about this concept of physical care and mental care, and how for me, my mental care is the first thing to go if I'm busy or if I'm not careful. And then soon after that is the physical, you know? And so for me, a really big implementation intention from James Clear, who you're clearly into as
I love James Clear. Yeah.
is, you know, I'm going to journal for 10 minutes every morning, 10 things of gratitude, because when I think it's Rachel Hollis who says, you know, pick out 10 things of gratitude. They have to be specific in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I've never heard it said like that. And I'm really enjoying that practice. So, you know, I'm not just thankful for Dawson. I'm thankful how he lathered up his hands and my face.
Oh, he sounds adorable. Yeah. I love, so you just mentioned Rachel Hollis, and I think what I want to say, two things that she often says that I really like. So we've talked a lot about awareness, and I went to see her speak, and the thing that stuck to me the most when she spoke is she said, health and life is about being intentional AF. And I won't swear, but intentional as F. And I think that, you know, that's partly what it is you need to be intentional about who you want to be, what actions you want to do now that are going to create this fitter future you. But in order to be intentional, you need to be aware. And so I think that awareness and the intentionality really go hand in hand. And I think about that actually quite often when I'm like, even during this COVID, you know, whenever I'm feeling, I don't know, sort of discombobulated, sad, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, Kathleen, intentionally, like, what are the things that you can, there's so many things out of your control, but what are the things that you can be really intentional about that are going to make a big difference? Can you phone a friend? Can you go for a walk? Can you get 10 extra minutes of sleep? Like, what can you intentionally do in your sphere of control? And so I really like what she says there. And then she says this line, I'm not going to get it perfect, but it's basically what I said earlier, which is you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to get great. And she's like, it's basically like you have to be willing to be sucky. You have to be sucky to get great. And that goes with the being okay to fail, and, you know, having a little bit of fear and knowing that the coward and the hero both have the same emotions. They just act differently, right? The hero says, yeah, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do this anyway. Or it says, yeah, this is sucky. I'm terrible at this. But guess what? Rachel Hollis told me that in order to get great, I got to be okay being a little bit sucky. So, you know, if somebody like Rachel Hollis, who's, you know, she has this media empire, she's amazing. If she can say, listen, I got to be intentional, then that's not something that, I don't know. Sometimes I think that we feel, it's not guilty, but like, it's almost like that we're lesser than if we have to intentionally plan these things. And we should all over self, that it should just naturally happen that I'm healthy. It should just naturally happen that I exercise. Bull crap. I'm not naturally anything. Like, I decide every single moment every morning I wake up and I say, when am I going to do my exercise? And I don't always want to, but I do it. Right. So that's what I do. That's what you do. I can tell, like, you're intentional, you're aware. So if people like us and Rachel Hollis they have to be intentional, like everybody does. It's just being human. It's not a failure to be intentional and plan and be thoughtful about yourself.
Yes, be reflective and thoughtful. But I'd really like to point out that we've been at this for a long time.
Yes. I'm almost 38, and I didn't start being active until like 17. So like 20 years I've been doing this, and I still mess up all the time. I'm still such a messy human all the time.
Well, I think that we all are. I did want to dig just a little bit deeper with the time that we have left. Ooh,
sure.
Time went by fast.
I know.
Question. So if somebody, actually 2 more, okay?
Okay,
So
2 more questions. I'm just going to put on, you just keep talking. I feel like it's getting very dark and I want to put on a light. So you talk and I'm going to put on a light as you talk.
Okay, so my first question is, what piece of advice do you have for people who are struggling to be consistent, specifically during COVID?
Okay. Hold on.
2 seconds.
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Podcast.
Pardon?
Your little ring light you have there.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if
I know.
I just feel it's very dark. Oh, now it's too late. There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Oh, okay. What precise? Pardon, consistency. Okay, so I think so many things. I think that idea of creating habits by design is really important. And I think that within COVID, especially, our work and our life and everything very much blends. So anything that you can do to set really clear boundaries, and they may feel at the beginning like they are really like fake or false. And I would just say that that's okay. Like, so for an example, at the end of your workday, close your computer down and go outside, go for a walk. And then when you come through the door, you open the door and you're like, honey, I'm home from work, right? So, and that sounds like silly and goofy, but we have to find ways to teach our brain that we're done work and we're into home. Or even if you're going to go to the gym, even if the gym is like 10 feet beside your computer, put an out of office onto your email and say, I have gone to the gym. Close the computer, turn off the notifications on your phone and go to your gym. As I said, even if your gym is like super like 5 feet away, because it's so easy in this COVID life. It's like you go to work out, but then you're sort of half checking your emails and you're half working out. So be intentional again, schedule things in and really know that you're swimming up a strong current. So you have to up your swimming game. Like, I think that's the thing, is that it just is going to take a little bit more effort to create new habits that serve you, and habits by design. And anything that you can do. So even like special TV that you watch on the weekend, so the whole day and week doesn't blend into one. Telling your spouse, like, just like as you would without COVID, like saying to your spouse, okay, I need to work out 3 days a week. How are we going to make this happen? You have to take the kids these 3 days, outside for a walk so I can be doing this. Or set up a family challenge where everybody's trying to see how many steps that they can get. Or, if you again, being intentional, knowing, okay, I'm doing a lot of mindless eating. Okay, so maybe then I create a little sign on my fridge, cafeteria open, cafeteria closed, or kitchen open, kitchen closed, right? And then say to myself, I'm only eating these. I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner windows. And other than that, the kitchen is closed. So part of it comes down to knowing you and knowing where your habits have slid during COVID and with the consistency. But and then once you know yourself, creating really clear boundaries of work and life and health and home and all that. So I think that's one thing. I think consistency is really just about making things really convenient that are healthy and making things inconvenient that are not. That's a James Clear for sure. So, if you don't want to eat certain foods, don't have them in the house. If you want to eat certain foods, have them in the house. If you want to exercise, get your clothes all ready, set your stuff out, like have it all so it's in eyesight, make it fun, right? So, find fitness dates, even if it's just that your friend is in your ear and you're going walking, or fun online fitness challenges that you can do. Try something new if you've never done yoga. I love Yoga by Adrienne. It's free, it's online. Try a dance class, put music on, dance around. So, find things that you enjoy, find things that are really convenient. Make the bar low enough that you can do it. Like the benefits of the best workout are moot if you can't actually make yourself do it. So the really intense workout that you do once a month is way less valuable than the small bits that you do daily. And keep in mind that I think, unfortunately, for a lot of us, we're still doing really well with our workouts, and then we're doing fairly well with sitting and doing nothing, but we're not doing very well with the like lifestyle, gentle stuff in between. So, the things where in normal life, you might go walk from your car, like walk from the home to the car, and then from the car to the office, and those little things. So if you can find ways, even if it is just like a song in between a Zoom meeting where you dance around, like just ways to move throughout your daily life. So yeah, with consistency, the biggest thing is things that you pretty much enjoy, things that are easy, where the bar is really low. and journal it, schedule it. And when you do it, take a moment to reflect on, like, interesting, how did I get that? How did I make that happen? And how can I reproduce that? Get as many people involved in your story that's suitable for you. And, you know, that idea of what gets measured gets managed, that business adage. So, you know, if you want to manage your health and wellness, measure it. Like, get one of those, you know, MyFitnessPal or Noom or one of those apps, track it so you can see, because I think we often underestimate our unhealthy choices and overestimate our healthy choices. We're like, oh yeah, I work out 5 days a week. It's like, but that's your aspirational goal. And then when you actually start doing it, it's actually more like you average twice a week, not 5 days a week. Yeah. And just know that you can always tweak things as you go, right? But you have to get a plan and you got to get the habit going. So 10 minutes, you know, 10 minutes of yoga every day can turn into 15, which can turn into 20, but 0 isn't going to turn into anything.
Yeah.
So,
I have to re-listen to this because you dropped so many little nuggets. And as a mom with young kids and your sleepy brain, like, you know, I just don't retain it. So I got to go back and listen to it.
I'm not sure if I retain anything. I don't have the reason of being a mom. Like, so the fact that you retain anything is amazing to me.
I really did like one more thing I wanted to point out that you said, and it's that life is not pass or fail. This is not a pass.
No, it's really not. Yeah.
So
No.
I like that now.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. You said life is not pass or fail. I was going to say, no. I mean, the thing about life is it's all about learning sort of how to struggle well and trend in the right direction, because it's never going to be the perfect moment to work out, the perfect day to work out. And part of life, you know, in Buddhist philosophy, they talk about like the sukha and the dukkha, the good and the bad, right? And there always is both. And with every choice comes a loss, and with every loss comes a choice. And like there's nothing like, you know, I have made a conscious decision not to have children. I love James, but you know, we have a dog, and, you know, there's a loss inherent in that. But what I get from it, I've decided is the gains that I want. You know, you have 2 unbelievable kids, and I can tell they're the sweetest, cutest kids, but there is a certain amount of loss that comes with that, mainly sleep, right? And I'm not like, that doesn't mean that the kids aren't completely worth it. The point is that eating broccoli is a choice. There's a loss to that. You don't get the chocolate cake. Going for a walk is a choice. You get so much. You get to be outside. You get the fresh air, but you don't get to sit and watch Netflix. Like, so every choice has a loss. Everything has sukha and dukkha. Like, and life is this wonderful, that the problem of privilege of being alive is having these choices and making, like, what's the choice that works for me? What's the choice that aligns with my values? And I think I'll finish off with one last thing on this topic is, her name is Susan David. She's great. She's written a book called Emotional Agility. She has a podcast, and she would say that wanting to live a life with no stress or no pain or no frustration or all those things, she's like, that's a dead person's goal. If you want a life with no stress, go 6 feet under, right? If you want a life with no problems, go 6 feet under. Every life, inherent to the life is, you are always going to have something to manage. And it's not that when you're managing something, you say, well, you know what, this is a really stressful day, I'm not going to work out. What you say is, this is a really stressful day, I better work out because I need working out to allow me to handle this stress. So you don't say like, oh, I had a fight with my husband, I better have chocolate cake. That's not going to make the fight better. You know what's going to make the fight better? Go talk to him, communicate with him. Right. Yeah. So it's like, there's always going to be crap that happens in life, because life is this turmoil of ups, good and bad, and sukha and dukkha, and emotions and joy and frustration. Like, that's what life is. And that's the huge privilege of being alive, is managing all that stuff. And when you come across an obstacle, the answer that is not going to, like, the one thing I know is what's not going to make you feel better is to eat a bunch of crap and skip a workout. What's going to make you feel better is to do things that serve you and your future self. And, you know, if you're angry at somebody, have a conversation, go for a walk, drink some water. If you're angry at yourself, journal, go for a walk, have some water.
That's the worst. I always say the worst thing is being annoyed with yourself because you can't get away from yourself.
Totally.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, can you share, first of all, I'm with everybody else who's listening to this podcast saying sukha dukkha. That is really fun to say.
Isn't that awesome? So and what's funny about that is I say it to myself all the time, and everyone's always like, what's the good one and what's the bad one? And I'm like, I don't know, because I say them together all the time. I don't even know which. I think sukha is the joy and dukkha is the pain. But because I really do believe that they're this like sort of intertwined. You know, Brené Brown says that you can't cherry pick emotions, that like you can't choose joy and not feel loss, or, and I often think of it that way. In order to feel the highs of life, you also you have to be able to feel all emotions, right? So anyway, I think people should look it up though. It's a really, really interesting concept of this good and this bad, but I like, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure Sukha is good, but anyway, good and bad with
Share
everything.
where people can learn more about you.
Yeah. So my website's KathleenTrotter.com. And as you can tell, I love reading and I love interesting information. So on the website is, all my articles, all that stuff, but also I do book reviews. So, there's a review of James Clear's book and Brené Brown and mindset, anything I've talked about, Kristen Neff, self-compassion. All my media stuff is there, access to my 2 books. There's a COVID sanity pack. So there's articles and information on how to manage COVID. There's information on my group coaching. So it's all on my website. I also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I'm Fit by Kathleen T.
Okay. And I will link to all of those social channels and your website in the show notes for this. I really appreciate your time.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. Honestly, you're such a good listener. In coaching language, you are a true level 2 listener.
Oh, I don't know what that is. But
so level 1 is like superficial, and level 2 is like you get to the deepness, and you are a level 2 listener. And that's a huge compliment from me, because there's not very many people in this world who are a level 2 listener.
I really appreciate that, Kathleen. That made my day. Thank you. And so for those listening, again, go to her website, check out her resources. I'm excited to read your books. I think that there's going to be a lot of good wisdom. I'm excited to re-listen to this so I get all those nuggets. I'm sure that we'll be in touch. And thank you again for coming on.
Oh, it was so my pleasure. You're awesome. I loved it. Every minute.
Bye.